Okay, thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to ask our panelists a question about what's the most exciting projects that you have seen in terms of digitalization that has happened. I'm going to give each of you 3 minutes to share about, probably about 2 minutes to share about the project, the most exciting project that you have seen. But you can take you can take some time. Before I start, I just want to know, like, how many of you guys actually come from corporates? Oh, not many? Okay, how many of you guys from startups, founders? Oh, okay. Students, maybe? Oh, we have some students, corporates, and most of us are the founders. Okay. So we're gonna use these 30 minutes. So I'm not gonna, I don't like to be lonely here. So I'm just gonna take questions from you guys after they share with us about the exciting project they have seen, one project that they have seen at least within the past 2 years. Who do you want to get started first?
I can start.
Okay.
Anywhere around the world.
Around the world. Things that you have seen like really, really exciting.
Sure. So hi guys. I've been working with a lot of corporates for the past few years, and I've seen quite a bit pretty interesting stuff happening. I think one story which is really interesting was actually Michelin tires. You guys have a Michelin company? Am I not clear? It's clearer? Yeah. Okay. So this is really interesting. I think this happened about 3 to 4 years ago. Michelin company, they produce tires, right? They're one of the best, but they were almost going bankrupt. And they realized that they had to embark on digital to actually look at what is out there, right? Because they realized that they can't just be selling tires. So one of the interesting things they did was actually they came up with a small team, almost like a startup in their company, to actually look at the digital elements, right? And they realized that they were servicing all these big trucks, right? The truckers, and they were just selling tires to them. They said, look, if I can convert selling tires into selling outcomes, right, that would just double my opportunity. And how they did that was actually they partnered with a digital company, a big data startup, right, that was actually looking to analytics, and together with that, they incorporated IoT into the tires. And what they did was, instead of just selling tires, they became tire consultants. They converted their sales team into consultants. They went in and they actually provided the entire gambit of support until they can even tell the truckers when they should change tires and how much that they need to spend to maintain each tire, right? So up to per liter per kilometer. And that was really fantastic. From 8 people in the team, within just a year, they moved up to 800 people in the organization just looking into this.
No one's. Oh, here you go. Sensitive buttons. Too many. No prep at all. So essentially, we're a startup, right? So I don't spend a lot of time going around looking for projects that are exciting. But we work with a lot of SMEs, right? So we work with, Storehub, we do point of sale, inventory management, like a platform for small and medium retailers to kind of like just, I guess, digitize their business from pen and paper receipt, inventory stock taking to actually having everything in the cloud, iPad manage. And when we're working with all these retailers, I think one of the things that we have seen that's really, really interesting in the region is that a lot of retailers, I guess less of a project, but more of their embrace of e-commerce in such a very different way from what we saw, say, in China, or how things evolved in the US. So in the US, we saw how a lot of e-commerce kind of evolved from just buying from websites and all that stuff. And then in China, it was very much single platform. You have Taobao, Alibaba. And essentially, it was marketplace and websites. But something that we saw with a lot of our customers here in Southeast Asia is that we have a lot of them embracing the idea of chat commerce, right? And it was a very fascinating kind of bridge between these kind of big journeys that China and the US have taken up, and how instead of relying on platforms or technology, because so many vendors and so many people in Southeast Asia have struggled to build platforms. Prior to the Zara doing well, prior to Alibaba coming to town, platforms were not very good. And we had a major cultural problem, right? Which we don't trust each other a lot. We have a massive trust problem, right? And we have a payments problem. There's no proper way to pay, and the logistics is difficult. And so, if without trust, commerce just does not happen. So something that we've observed a lot of our SME customers do is that they just leverage chat, whether that's on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or in Thailand we saw a lot of guys using Line. So much of commerce happens through Line, and all that trust is established through chat, which is, I think, a very unique kind of like behavior pattern that we see in Southeast Asia, and it's definitely something to think about when we actually build platforms for small businesses. Is that knowing and recognizing these patterns, why the US, they prefer these independent stores, they have trust systems in place already, they like to be individualistic about their purchasing behavior, they like personalization, they like kind of like that customized experience. In China, being big guy there, running marketplace and trust, manage all that stuff. And then here, we kind of like, jalan, selok, belok, our Malaysian style, and actually, so we just got to talk to some. Now, the problem with chat commerce is that it's not scalable. So I guess the question for me and my observation is, how do these businesses, they kind of move from there into something that makes more sense and actually grow? And I think the role of digitalization, for me, that's an important question that SMEs have to ask. What's the next evolution of my business beyond chat commerce?
Hi. I think one of the things that really struck me when we were in China is the new retail. I think that is something that I read about before I went, but there I saw in my own two eyes that how big it has become in China, and I think which we could replicate in our region. And talking about digitalization, right? So we have good fortune that we are involved in one such project by I cannot name it for now because I signed NDA, but it's a big GLC, if I can say that. Yeah. So they have retail stores all over the nation, all over the country, but we are involved in bringing them to the next step, which is the new retail, merging the offline and the online. So we are a multimodal food company. So we want to provide extra services to the existing offline that they have in the market. So I think this, you can see that even though they are such a big company, they are huge, but they embrace this digitalization to the core, that they in fact brought in a lot of people from the startup community to be part of their team, which was great to see. And then we saw that, of course, when you work with these big corporates, sometimes agencies and all, you have the bureaucracy, it's time consuming, they don't understand the business model, where we come from. But I think that we can see that from this, the company that we're working with, they have gone through leaps and bounds to that they are now embracing the whole startup culture, they're embracing the whole e-commerce and all the new retail culture as well. So which was great. I think that answers the question.
Yes, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys. Okay, so I understand. It's actually not so complicated. No worries. Thank you, Lenise. Maybe you just throw some questions that you want to know from our panelists. Okay. Hello. Okay, so we have MDEC from the government agency who drive digital transformation. They're spearheading the digital economy, anything related to technology. So that's their business. So they monitor at the policy level, government level. And we have two rock stars here. So the Storehub is the point of sale system, and also PasarTap as well. And so e-commerce, and we have payment, e-commerce and point of sales, and also from the government.
Rock concert has begun.
Okay. Okay. So, what are the things that you want me to gather and pick up their brains? So, I think because they are rock star today, not many days we can meet the rock stars, right? So, can you help me? Maybe just throw a question. So, what do you want to know? Anyone want to start first?
Yep.
Oh, you just shout.
For PasarTap, basically, right? So basically, how do you? I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
No, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, PasarTap is quite similar to Instacart. Is that it?
Oh, actually, we have PasarTap, not table app.
PasarTap. Sorry.
Yeah, PasarTap. Okay.
So how you guys differentiate the so-called value prop as opposed to Instacart? Should Instacart penetrate the Southeast Asian market down the road?
Okay, cool. So you want value proposition, the distinguishing factor. Yeah. Okay. So any other things? Second question. Okay.
So this question is actually to MDEC. So with the new government has come in place, so what is the roadmap of the Malaysian digitization, and that's going to scale Malaysia to the next phase to make Malaysia even a better place for business?
Nail it, bro. Okay.
Quick, you can't taste the mic until it's the.
Oh, okay. I'm easy. So, any other question? Anyone else want to know anything? Okay.
I'm interested to know how does PasarTap get involved in GLC, because GLC has a lot of bureaucracy, and how can suddenly GLC be interested in startup, and we know startup has a lot of risk.
Okay, so basically how PasarTap actually reached to DLCs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. Another one? Is there any other things? So now we are talking about value proposition, how you distinguish yourself. So I'm going to give it to Hong and PasarTap. But also at the same time, Mohd has already got his question, which is quite tough. So that's another one. Okay, just another one. Anyone want to chip in a question? Really? Okay.
Questions the whole night and
Okay.
This is for Hong. How do you transition from a 10 team into a 70? What was the changes that you need to do internally within your team? How do you transform?
If I can add to that, how's your journey of going abroad across Malaysia to other countries been like so far, maybe for some of the others in the room who have the same ambition?
Wow. Okay. So we're gonna start with asking about the value propositions quickly, how you distinguish yourself, and then we're gonna move about how actually you PasarTap has extra question, which is how you pitch to GLCs, and Hong has separate question on how do you scale a team from 10 to 70 and how you move it to another country expansion. And also Mohd, I saved the best for the last lah. Okay, let's start with Hisham.
Okay, for the record, we're not table app, we're PasarTap. Okay, so value proposition. That's very important. I think when you start a company, start a startup, you have to have your value proposition very clear. You know how you are different from your competitors. So from the get-go, we know how we can be different. Our competitors, shall I name them? Happy Freshers and the Honesties of the world. So we are a local player. We're small, we're a local player, but we proud ourselves that we want to grow the local food ecosystem. So we part of our DNA is actually to promote local products, bring them online, and catch a bigger market, which is the online market, which is the e-commerce market. That's how we started. If you talk about Instacart, I think the question was how are we different from Instacart? Instacart started off as a different company called, I can't remember now, Supply Cart, I think. Supply card.
US based.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Okay, US based
Instacart.
company, right?
Yeah, okay, Instacart. Okay, I got it confused. Okay, Instacart is similar, somewhat similar. We are a supply chain. We call ourselves a supply chain player. So what we do is we go up the supply chain to get access to the food, where we can get better margin and get better product choice. Let's say. Instacart is like they are a marketplace. We do not carry stock. That's number one. We access directly from the suppliers, so the customers buy from us, and then we access from the suppliers and we deliver directly. So we are an asset-light food company essentially. I hope that answers the question. We can chat later. And the other one is how we tackle the GLC. Actually, they are here tonight, so I have to make sure I say things correctly. Actually, from when before I went to China, I read a lot about China and Alibaba, how they did their businesses and all. Something struck me, which was the new retail. I particularly liked Herma Fresh. Anybody knows what Herma Fresh is? Oh, not many, so Google it.
Google it, yeah.
It's essentially the state of the art, the new grocery store. What they are in China is basically they combine both retail and also the warehouse. So it's spread all over China now. But essentially, you can get, if you go into the store, you can get your products within 30 minutes delivered to your house. That was the promise, which was mind-blowing, right? So I heard about that, and we were also invited for a event by the GLC. Pure entrepreneurial instinct. I said, wait a minute. I think I can, link this to this partner, something that they already have. Might as well what the heck, just pitch to him, which I did. I pitched to him a 10-minute pitch with my partner. We told them that we could change their retail stores forever, rebrand it. So I said, okay, we will come back when I came back from China. We will sit down again and see how we can work on this. I think number one is that seize the opportunity, seize the moment. Number two is that they were ready for it. I think that is critical. Even though if you talk to GLCs or whatever big corporates of your mind-blowing idea or whatever, but if they're not ready for it, nothing will happen, right? It's just so happened that they were looking the same way as we were. So it went from that on. It was quite fast, from that discussion, from the first pitch to the next discussion, until now we are going to embark on a pilot, POC, very soon. So find the niche, find the right GLC, or find the right big corporates to work with. Maybe understand their vision. Perhaps there is something there that they might not be thinking of. You have that angle into it, perhaps. But then seize the opportunity.
Quite a few questions. Right? I like to speak fast, so if you don't understand what I say, just talk to me later. Value prop is very simply for us. A lot of people, when we fundraise about 3 times already, so we've got 3 rounds of fundraising, and each time the investor will ask, so what's different? What's special about your business? And then they're always expecting you to give a product answer, right? They say, oh, our product is like sexy this way, it's special this way, it serves a particular purpose this way. But I always tell them 3 reasons, and the product's the last one. The first thing is that we do customer service actually well. And the funny thing is, because I've been in retail, right? So I used to run an online retail business in Australia. And the funny thing is, when I came back to Malaysia, is that IT vendors in Malaysia, for some reason, don't think service should be part of the offering, right? It's just not, it's an afterthought, it's something that's really not. And so for us, when we actually brought this, has anyone heard about Zappos? Delivering Happiness, Tony Shea, it's kind of an old company. And they have this line called Delivering Wow Service. And we adopted that in retail, in e-commerce, and then we brought that DNA to B2B SaaS software, right? And funny enough, that worked. So value proposition, wow service, believe it or not, it has some place a part to play in, I guess, our growth and our journey. The second thing is that when you're serving the SME market, small medium businesses like we do, sales and marketing, we did mostly in the first couple of years, purely digital marketing, inbound sales. We didn't go door-to-door knocking, which a lot of our competitors did. We didn't pursue partnerships, which a lot of competitors did. We just guerrilla-style digital marketing and inbound sales. And that works too, because getting in front of people's faces, especially for a small business, being the first to appear in front of them actually works, because they're not necessarily out there kind of looking. It's not like a directory of point of sale software they can kind of revert to, right? But because they see your ad on Facebook, they see something on Google, then they click on it and it makes sense and it's an easy sell, right? So it's just being the first to get in front of them. I did say that you don't want to hear me talk or something, it just keeps cutting out. And so I think this combination of those two things, I guess, is at the core. I mean, yes, we believe that we have a world-class product. We believe that the way we've built it, easy UX, easy UI, all that stuff. But really, the core of the value proposition was these two things. Difficult question: how do we grow from 10 people to 70? Well, really, 70 people to 130 people where we are today. In the last 5 years, and I think the reality is that, I guess, not so much the question of how do you grow, but how do you manage that transition, right? At Storehub, our vision is really very simple. It's we have a vision for building a platform for awesome businesses, we call it, and we have another vision for a place, we call it a place where people thrive. Thrive is such a difficult word for Malaysians to pronounce, but what we define by that is, when we were at Alibaba talked about how they wanted to be a company where with the #1 employee happiness index, right? With the happiest employees in the world. So at Storehub, we thought maybe we should one up Alibaba and we should come up with something a little bit more meaningful, which is that instead of happiness, can we focus on employees growing? And instead of thinking about just happy employees, can we think about growing employees who are fulfilling their fullest potential, who are doing meaningful work that connects their strengths with things that they are doing, but at the same time, understanding how that work, late bricks, actually connects to the bigger vision of building the cathedral, the big building. And for us, that's super important in growing that company and in the way that we approach taking 10 to 70 to 130. It became a principle for us in decision making around how do we hire people. We came up with a framework to describe this. We call it CHQ: competent, humble, hungry, hip. Hip is kind of like not hipster, okay, not hippie as well. It's more like do they gel well with the team? And so when we think about all these things, like there's so much work that goes into thinking, headspace that goes into actually figuring this out. But the biggest, #1, most difficult thing about building a place where people grow and people thrive is that the first people that need to be worked on is us as leaders. And I think the #1 thing, there's so many startup founders here that I want to speak to, is that more often than not, the biggest bottleneck of any startup growth is the founders. We want to build these billion-dollar companies in 3 years, but we don't realize oftentimes that we are not good enough as CEOs or as leaders to grow these companies at that, to that size in that speed. You may be a good enough leader for 10 people, but in order to be a good enough leader for 30 people, you've got to level up. In order to be a good enough leader for 60 people, you've got to level up. In order to be a good enough leader for 150 people, you've got to level up. And we're all young punks, right? Not having any clue or not having any experience in actually leveling up or actually managing that kind of growth. And that's really, really difficult. I mean, for me, I've been very lucky. I've had a business coach based out of Palo Alto in California for the last 4 years. She coaches everyone from Fortune 500 companies all the way down to 50 people startups. And I've been able to learn from that. I've learned frameworks and ways for us to level up as leaders to grow our companies, to implement simple things like, most of you guys, how many of you guys face the problem where every problem in the company is your problem? Everyone asks you the question you guys know what I'm saying? Right? So how do you work yourself out of that situation? That's something I had to learn, right? It's literally, instead of giving them the answer, you sit down and so what do you think is the problem here? And they're like, you say something and you're like, I see. So, why do you think this is the... And so you have to coach people out of that mindset, right? So going from 10 to 20 to 30, it's like that. And then going from 30 to 70, it's like, now I have to work on being a leader of leaders, because I was a good leader of followers. Okay, great. I coached them to think for themselves a little bit. Now I'm going to teach people how to teach people and lead people. And that's really, really tough. And then now it's 70 to 130, right? And then it's completely changed again. It's less about training the leaders. It's more about culture. It's such a bad word. I don't even want to use that word. But it's organizational development. It's behaviors. It's systems and processes that you need to put in place. It is people don't understand simple concepts. Like when you make a request, you need to be clear and specific about your request and when you want it. And how do you shift an entire organization of 130 people to think like that, to learn the skill like that? And that's really hard. I mean, you put posters up in the toilet walls, and that's something we learned from Alibaba. They do that very well. And you spam it at every single town hall, but it's not enough. I think I'm speaking a lot here, but it's a really, really difficult journey. And then the last one, expansion. Oh, God. I think it ties in all with all that stuff I was talking about. You know, expansion is an extension of the difficulty of growing an organization. And essentially what that means is that it is a people problem fundamentally. You start out with a culture that works in Malaysia. You try to export this culture to Thailand and you realize, shit, this does not work here. You try to export this culture to the Filipinos and they really they love to hug each other, they're very touchy-feely, and you're like, huh? We can't do. And in Thailand they're also polite. Do you know there's no word for what's the word here? They don't have a word for like like problem solving. I don't understand. I was like, why don't you have a word for that? Right? Which is a word that we use in our conversations for actually our HR training. They didn't have a word for that, you know. And I'm like, if I can think of the word, you guys would love it. But they didn't have a word for something that was crucial to our basic onboarding HR training process. And so we had to work around that, right? And expansion is fundamentally about getting that people problem right, about the cultural nuances. And it's really, really difficult. But if I were to share, I guess, a bit of hope, is that I believe that Malaysian entrepreneurs have a very special gift, and is that we are very selok belok, we are very adaptable, and we have the ability to kind of like work our way around these things because we grew up in the only truly multicultural country in Southeast Asia. And so I think there's something to be said about how, you know, thanks buddy. I really appreciate it. And I think that's super important. So yeah, just leverage your strengths as a adaptable kind of person. Thanks.
Okay, let's go to Mohd.
Awesome. Hey, come on guys, that was an awesome. The thing about it, thank you. But the thing about it, if whenever I get into a panel and if I'm introduced as a government guy soon, I get all the boring questions and I don't know how to relate to all the awesome sharing that was just done just now, right? Thank you for the question. At least it's slightly different now. I always get very simple questions like, where's the grant? How much do you have? When can I get it? Okay, it's really interesting time that we are here in Malaysia. I think a lot of focus on what can we do better. That's what is in the minds of the policymakers, and I think that's really awesome. And something I can say is that digital is crucial. Digital is understood, right? At the moment, the digital economy contribution to the country, GDP-wise, is about 18.2%. Around that, 18.2. Significant, but still small. So now the focus is on the 80%, the balance. How can we convert those non-tech, non-digital economy, how can we convert them to become digital? That means that's the point today, right? It's all about digitalization. So the stuff that you guys are doing, it's really, really crucial. The point is that whether the 80%, the traditional businesses, whether they get it, whether they understand. So a lot of work we're doing now is actually to sort of bridge this gap, right? Creating bigger awareness in terms of the impact of digital. That's primarily what I do for the past couple of years. I've been talking to all the corporates. I go down to the factories, to the manufacturers, SMEs, try to understand what are their pain points. And the thing is that these guys get it, right? The corporates do get it. The question is they probably have challenges in terms of the how. Right? The how is a big, big challenge. And because of the how, a lot of startups, a lot of tech companies can't get into this environment. That's the biggest challenge. And when you ask the how, there are basically a few things that I look at. The first thing is that there's no such thing as a digital strategy. You talk technology to them, they're going to just say goodbye. Right? They're just going to say goodbye. Thank you so much, go talk to my IT guy. Right? That's it. There's no digital strategy. Right? And because there's no digital strategy, there's no budget allocated for this kind of things. Right? So we have to understand this thing. The third thing is that when they speak to me, they say, Mohd, this is really great, but I don't know whether my people can do this. Talent. Right? Or my company is not sexy enough for me to go and adopt this technology. Right? This guy is not going to work with me for sure. So the mindset of the CEOs of these companies are like that, right? So talent is not really this scarcity. It's not about scarcity. It's about adaptability, availability. And the last part is technology is so fast-paced for them, right? Don't go in and say, look, I can create big data, analytics, and transform your company. And that's just going to put them 3-4 steps behind and say, look, fine, I'll do it maybe next year. I have not figured this out. So this is some of the stuff that we're doing here. And we try to differentiate between digitization and digitalization. Again, we have to understand that fact as well. Digitization is like just, I'm going to convert your analog to digital. Right? Value proposition is there, but it's pretty small. Digitalization is about changing the business model. Right? It's about introducing something new, as simple as what Grab did, right? What Grab did was there's nothing really, really innovative. I mean, they're awesome guys, but they were. If you remember the early days, you call Comfort Taxi. Comfort Taxi, basically the traditional guys who had the taxi company. You call them, and after that you get an SMS from Grab. Thank you for ordering this cab. It's going to come at this time. So basically, Grab initially they were actually doing the back end work, right? And then they moved forward. What they did, they actually changed the whole business model. So this is what we are telling the traditional companies. We're saying, look, today we are living in the digital world. The digital disruption is already happening. And if you don't do anything about it, you are going to be disrupted. And if you don't want to be disrupted, figure out something that works for you in the digital space. So, there's one company I can't mention, but a huge one of our project, we call it VIP. Not because it's so special, but because we were working at corporates and they like to be called VIP. and so this is actually a huge developer, right? They built a smart tunnel, so I think you know who they are. So really smart guys, and I really love working with them. And this was actually the property development guys. And you won't believe it. You think that corporates are super smart in terms of digital. Really, they were doing things using Excel sheet, and some of them were just on paper. That's the true fact. I'm sure you would know. If you have worked with corporates, you would know that. And the value proposition for when we spoke to them was that we said, look, if you want to if you want to look at digital, you look at it from a point of solving problems, finding solutions, right? Find the pain points or find opportunities. Forget about technology. What pain point can we help solve for you, or can we help you to find some digital opportunity? For them, it was purely solving problems. They had too many engineers doing simple stuffs, going around, so they were actually managing malls, and they had too many engineers going around just collecting data from machines, right? Can you imagine? And through a simple project where we connected with an asset management startup, they cut down the 6-month process to 3 weeks, right? And they did that project in less than 3 months or so. And so they cut down 80% of the dependency of their resources, meaning that they cut 80%, yeah? So the 80% now can be reassigned to do something else. They were super happy, and now they're going big scale. And I like that story because they worked with a startup. So what they're doing now is they're actually building a JV, and they're going to sell that system, the value proposition, to all the other developers out there. So I think that is digitalization. That is what we need to do, and that's what the government is focused on doing now.
Thank you so much. We don't have time. Thank you so much for the questions, for the help up. And let's give a big round of applause again to all our speakers. So, over to you.